Hello everybody, Chris here, and in this video I'd like to take a little bit of a look at the two different versions of OBS, Open Broadcaster Software, and give you a visual comparison between the two. We have the classic OBS over here on the left, and OBS Studio on the right, which I first used on a Linux platform, but now also available on Windows. And for the most part, the two applications do about the same thing, but they do present your options and settings in a little bit of a different manner. So over here on the left, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, scenes and sources, basically being able to add different items to your screen, and for every screen or scene that you want to present, you can create new ones over here. It's the exact same in OBS Studio, just adding a couple more buttons in the bottom for you to have quicker access to the functions rather than having to right-click to get things done. One difference that is actually a little bit more noticeable on the front page of your OBS programs is that in the original OBS, you do have the mic and the speaker sounds over here, but you don't have immediate access to change which devices those actually are. However, in OBS Studio, you do. So if you wanted to change the microphone, all that you would need to do is click over here on this little button over here, go to Properties, and change it to the device which you want to record from. And that's a little bit easier than having to go to the Settings menu in the original OBS, which basically is going to mean Settings up here at the top, and then Audio to pick a microphone out. So let's see, speaking of the settings menus, let's actually go ahead and compare the two. Obviously in the original OBS, it's straight up there in the menu, but it's not actually an option in the top menu of OBS Studio. Instead, it's been moved to File and then Settings. Alternatively, in the bottom right hand corner, there is a button which will bring you to the exact same page, so let's go ahead and bring that up. And you can see that for the most part, pretty similar once again, OBS Studio being a little bit more visual with the large icons and text, and a few less categories that are necessary. But across all of these categories, you can more or less find the same kinds of settings. So stream, for instance, choosing out a streaming service like Twitch TV or YouTube that you want to stream to is basically going to be about the same as broadcast settings over here. Once again, being able to choose the streaming service, Twitch or YouTube. Pretty similar. Encoding kind of corresponds with output, being able to set the video rate, and in the original OBS, max bit rate once again defaults to 1000, which is probably far too low for streaming, but you can always boost that up just by setting 3000 or something like that. One major difference between the two apps here, though, is that when you're recording in OBS Studio, you actually have the ability to change the recording quality to be different than the streaming quality. Whereas in the original OBS, if you say 3000 kilobits per second, it's pretty much going to stream at 3000 kilobits per second to both your online service, Twitch TV, and to your computer if you're recording at the same time. So you can actually change that so that it's different for streaming and recording within OBS Studio, and that's pretty cool. In audio, basically the same settings. You can choose your microphone in a different location, and you still have the ability to enable push to talk over here. I think this setting for push to talk is actually somewhere down there. It's definitely in the original OBS. One of the more important things, of course, is going to be hotkeys. You can see actually in OBS Studio there's a few more hotkeys available to you. Notably, the ability to transition, and we'll be talking about studio mode in a second here, which kind of corresponds with the scene switcher in the original OBS. But the nice thing about studio mode is that you can see a visual preview of, well, the scenes that you can be switching to. So let's just go ahead and pull that up here. Just know that in the scene switcher for the original OBS, basically you have to do everything through hotkeys, test things beforehand, and you really don't have a preview window to see the scene you're going to be switching to, because OBS Original only really lets you see the one scene that you're currently working in, not the ones that you might be switching to. So if we're in studio mode in the new version of OBS Studio, probably the main reason it's called Studio actually, we have a preview of one scene and the one that we would be switching to. So you can select the scene down here in scenes, and you can see the starting scene and the end up scene, and you can transition between them by hitting the transition button. Alternatively, you hit the hotkey that you set for transition. But the major advantage here is that if you have someone, say, doing the live video cuts in the background, and they don't want to mess things up, basically they want to make sure that whatever they're previewing is actually what they want to show on screen, then having it visually display here, both with the live screen and the switch to screen at the same time, is kind of a nice bonus of OBS Studio. But other than that, it basically works the same. You can definitely switch scenes inside of the original Open Broadcaster software. It's just a little bit less full-featured, I guess you could say. But aside from that, more or less the two versions of the program do roughly the same thing, and it's kind of up to you which one you want to use. If you don't even need the studio mode feature, then it may just come down to visual appearances. Maybe you like the original menu where it's just kind of a list over here on the left, as opposed to having these icons which don't really match up with a Windows interface. But yeah, I hope that gives you a rough idea of some of the differences between the two apps, visually and functionally. I've been Chris. Thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, feel free to check out my Patreon account. And until my next video, I'll see you.